So delighted to be with our friends here in room 2425. Want to thank all of those who are online with us learning remotely. And Rachel Korazim, Shabbat Shalom to you. We're so grateful to
Shabbat
you.
Shalom to
This
you
is our
from
fourth
Tel Aviv.
session with you, and you are just such a good friend and indispensable interpreter of Israel. Before we even begin with blessings to thank God for the Torah you're going to teach us, tell us what is happening in Israel, what the mood is in Israel, and what do you think is going to be 10 days out from Yom Ha'atzmaut?
I have no idea what will be out. The mood in Israel is fluctuating depending what channel of news you are listening to. I can tell you two things. A, I prepared, as in all our previous sessions, a little bit of the private. So some of what I think and have experienced in recent days will be part of my presentation. And the other thing, which is the simplest way to say it, in a few hours, I will be out on the street demonstrating again for the
Mm.
15th week. So
Well,
that should tell you how I feel about things. I don't think anything is settled. I don't think we are there yet. We need to be vigilant. We need to continue watching and making sure that our democracy stays alive.
yeah. Rachel, could you tell us, has there been ongoing dialogue between the different points of view, the different parties?
It seems there is, under the auspices of the president. We haven't heard anything official yet, but they are still talking. So now that Pesach is over and Mimuna is over, everybody will go back to business tomorrow. And the big question will be, will they indeed halt the procedure of legislation, which is what we are all expecting for to allow a good faith during the discussions. Because if they continue like the bulldozer that they have done prior to Pesach, then nothing has been achieved, and they will sort of that will nix the dialogue and the conversations.
Wow. Well, let us thank God for the gift of learning Torah together, and then we'll love to hear your personal narrative and then the teaching
Hmm.
of the Torah of the
Sure.
poetry. Baruch atah Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
melech
melech
haolam,
haolam,
asher
asher
kiddushanu
kiddushanu
b'mitzvotav
b'mitzvotav
v'tzivanu
v'tzivanu
la'asok
la'asok
b'divrei
b'divrei
Torah.
Torah.
Ha'arevna
V'ha'arevna
Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
et
et
divrei
divrei
Toratcha
Toratcha
b'finu,
b'finu,
u'b'fi
u'b'fi
amcha
amcha beit
beit Yisrael.
Yisrael,
V'nihye
v'niyeh
anachnu
anachnu v'tze'atze'enu
v'tze'atze'enu
v'tze'atze'ei
v'tze'atze'ei
amcha
amcha
beit
beit Yisrael.
Yisrael,
Kulanu
kulanu yodei
yodei
shemecha
shemecha
v'lomdei
v'lomdei Toratecha
Toratecha
lishma.
lishma,
Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai
Adonai,
hamalamed
hamalamed
Torah
Torah
la'amo
la'amo
Yisrael.
Yisrael,
Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai
Adonai
Eloheinu
Eloheinu
melech
melech
haolam.
haolam,
Asher
Asher
bachar
bachar
banu
banu
mikol
mikol
ha'amim
ha'amim
v'natan
v'natan
lanu
lanu
et
et
Torato.
Torato.
Baruch
Baruch
atah
atah
Adonai
Adonai
notein
notein
haTorah.
haTorah.
Rachel, please
Amen.
take it away.
Okay, I am, and I am putting my presentation online for all of us to see. Give me just a minute. So here we are. We are at our Talmud on Shabbat, but dealing with Israeli issues. And as we have established a sort of a tradition, a sort of a masoret, to start for the first 15 minutes with something personal, how I and people close to me and my loved ones are handling the situation. And I always included a picture to suggest where we are going. So if in the previous two sessions we dealt with demonstrations, we dealt with Yossi's son Ophir, the reserve pilot, F-15 pilot, and his efforts to have dialogues across the divide, which are continuing. I want to share with you two vignettes from 5 days that Yossi and I had spent this Passover, this Pesach, up north in the Galilee. So we start with a selfie that I have taken in a lovely forest on Mount Meron. And these are only vignettes, so let me take you there. So first of all, I put on a smaller map, a bigger one will come, to show you the general area. We spent here 5 days, and every single one of them was extremely rich. And I'm choosing just two vignettes that somehow relate to what we are discussing in these sessions. So you can see the northern part of Israel. You can probably discern the border with Syria and Lebanon. You can see the Kinneret. You can see Haifa. And then you can see a red square which takes you into the area which is literally or looks as if it is practically in Lebanon. So don't worry, we haven't crossed the border to Lebanon, but the first place I want to take you to, if I spoke fluent Arabic, I would be able to pronounce the name properly, but I cannot because I don't speak Arabic. So I'll say the way we non-Arabic speakers pronounce it, Rajar. And it's encircled with a sort of a reddish circle, and you can see as Metula is the upper northest point in Israel, and then Rajar seems to be in Lebanon, but it's not. It's a village divided by what is called the Blue Line, the border between Israel and Lebanon, after we retreated from Lebanon in 2000 or so. This village used to belong to the Ramat Golan, to the Golan Heights, and therefore its inhabitants were Syrian citizens and are still considered Syrian citizens by Syria. Then the village officially needed to be divided between Lebanon and Israel, but they never allowed it. This community never allowed the UN to come in and literally create a border across the village, across the street, across their living rooms and gardens. And recently, after lots of negotiations, it was agreed, and when all these things happened, you were not allowed to visit there because it was under the rule of the military of the Israelis and the Lebanese watching. But a rather short time ago, it was open, so Yossi and I went to the village of Rajar. Rajar is a Muslim village with a group of Muslims that call themselves the Alawis. These are Muslims that are Shiites, yet they do not have mosques. They pray at home, they pray in groups, and they believe it or not, in the unity and the equality of all four religions. So I'm inviting you on the border between Lebanon and Israel to the village of Rajar that has this park of peace, Gan HaShalom. And you can see Yossi and I in the previous picture with our local tour guide, Hasna, standing at the entrance to the park, but I want you to see the main features of the park and not so much Yossi and I. So look at the four artistic elements. On the far front right-hand side, you see the symbol of the Alawis. Their symbol is the sword that Muhammad had given to Ali, the head of their sect. Then you move on the right-hand side further into the picture, and you can see a statue of Mary for the Christian religion. If you move to the left and in the middle, it's hard to see, but this is the symbol for the Druze with a beautiful image of the grave of their prophet Jethro, Yitro, the biblical Yitro. And if you come to the left-hand side in the front of the picture, I think you do not need me to tell you that this is a menorah and this is the place that honors the Jewish religion of this spot. Have you ever seen a Muslim village in your life that has a park for peace in which they honor the four religions of the area? Include it in your future trips. It is a possibility. I could talk for hours about this village and the way it is run by the local council, but we do not have the time for that. I want to tell you that they have 40 doctors, graduates of this village. 3 of the heads of the departments of the Jewish hospital in Sfat, the heads of the departments in the hospital, are from this village, and I could go on and on. So let me stop here for a minute about my first stop, Rajar, to see if there are any questions or comments about this one.
Wow, please keep going.
Okay, that makes it easy. So as I told you, I cannot take you through all our trip. By the way, if you are my Facebook friends, you can follow because I'm publishing, like now that we came back, day by day what we have seen.
I
And
guess,
you can become
Rachel,
my
I lied.
physician.
I do have a question. How do you process Gan HaShalom in a time that is so unsettled and tumultuous? I guess that's my emotionally. Your neshama. How is
I'll
your
tell you
neshama
what
in this
happened
garden
because
of
I was
peace?
exactly there.
Yeah.
First of all, the beauty of this place is hard to describe. Like, you know how public places are oftentimes in Israel. Yes, there is gardening, but there is cigarette butts. Not one single cigarette butts through the alleys and the paths and the streets of this town. The flowers are great and there are signs. I have the pictures of, please do not climb on the flower bed to take pictures. Please do not throw cigarette butts in Hebrew and in Arabic. The peacefulness, the tranquility is unbelievable. And when we were in the Garden of Peace, about which we have known nothing, while we were looking at Lebanon just across from the fence of the village, we were literally into Lebanese territory. And we were sitting with Chasna, and we said, Chasna, how is this possible? How can you, between the Syrian pressure and the Lebanese and the Israel, we all know how strong and oppressive we can be sometimes. How can you create this amazing island of peace? So she told me just one example. She said when finally Israel and Lebanon agreed about where the border should pass, which was straight through their living rooms in the village, there was a delegation from the UN that was supposed to come and mark the border. And they wouldn't let that happen. They wouldn't have their village divided. So all the men and all the women with the children literally took turns in sitting at the entrance of the village for 3 months. Not once a week demonstration like Rachel Korazim is doing and you think that I'm doing great. 24 hours, 3 months. No UN car would be let into the village because they knew that if the border would be marked, it will stay. Finally, you know what the UN did? They sent up a helicopter to the air and symbolically marked the border from the air. But this community will not let their village be divided. And these 3,000 people are standing against Israel and Syria and Lebanon and the UN, and they are just sitting there. No arms, no stones, no nothing. Taking turns, bringing food, sheltering the people if it rained or was too hot. This is a community that is totally together in an absolutely peaceful way. You have to be there to feel it.
Yeah, so Rachel, that's amazing. And my question is, it seems like your country's the opposite. And how do you deal with that dissonance?
Heartbrokenly, going out to the demonstration today and wishing that I could share some of that beauty and togetherness that we experienced in that village. And it's right in our parts. It's not on a different continent. It's not in a different universe. It's bang in the center of this Middle East in which we are all living, and it's possible. They're doing it.
Thank you.
Toda. So this was one. Wow, we are taking more than the time allocated, but never mind, whatever we do. The second was on our last day. So we went to the southern part of northern Israel to a kibbutz called En Harod. So you can see that it's sort of southeast of Afula. I marked them on the border. And here is in a bigger picture, and so that you can locate it between other places that you may know. And in En Harod, there is an art museum. So what's so special about this art museum? Two things. It was created in the year 1938, when the kibbutz was started in the 20s. So when we read all those stories about hunger and stroking sun and malaria and hard work, this particular group of people in Harod, as of their earliest days, knew that their life needed art. And they have written letters and they fundraised, and as early as the 30s, before World War II, they had an art collection. Now they have an amazing gallery that is testimony to the life of the artistic life of the countries from which kibbutz members came, but also to the art created in the kibbutzim. But nowadays there is a very special exhibit. And the exhibit is called The Spirit of Man, the Spirit of Place. And it's artists of the Abu Shakra family at Ein Harod, Walid, Said, Farid, Asum, and Karim Abu Shakra. So smack at the center of pioneering Israel of the 1920s, 100 years ago. In the art museum that has created, it is called Mishkan HaOmanut, there is now an artistic, beautiful exhibit of 5 artists coming from the same Palestinian Arab family in el-Fahim. So the narrative of the kibbutz and the narrative of the Palestinian artists, citizens of Israel, are sitting in one Mishkan, and we had the privilege of visiting. These are the 2 vignettes that I wanted to share with you as our Pesach experience this year in the Galilee. There was much more. Any questions about that?
Wow, just gratitude. Deep gratitude.
Okay, anybody else? If not, we are continuing with what we have gathered for today, and that is to look at the 4th element of our series. Here is just one of the rooms of that exhibit, and I wish I could tell you to include it in your trip when you come, but it's going to close next month. So there might be a beautiful catalog or something. So we are back to our topic, and this is our 4th meeting. So you know already that we have looked at right and left through the Altalena. We looked at the Jewish-Palestinian story and conflict through the Nakba. We looked at the Mizrahi-Ashkenazi story through Wadi Salib, and today we are looking at the disengagement. This is a relatively closer, more recent event, but very important in understanding what is going on nowadays in Israel. So let me explain. What is the disengagement all about? I first wanted you to look at one of the pictures of the demonstrations, and you could think that this is a picture, an image of demonstrations of today. So let me put the translations on for you, and you will see Sharon is expelling under fire. The expulsion corrupts. Katif, I swear, Samaria, I swear, Katif, I swear, etc. So these are Orthodox, Zionist, of course, right-wing people who are demonstrating against a right-wing government headed by Ariel Sharon, Zichrono Livracha, who had decided to return Gush Katif and the Jewish settlements of the Gaza Strip to the Palestinian rule, one should say. So let us look at the map again. You have 2 maps here, one of the left-hand side to show you where Gush Katif and the Gaza Strip is as per the general map of Israel. And on the right-hand side, you can look at a larger aerial picture of Gush Katif. Here is a list of all the settlements in Gush Katif that needed to be evacuated or expelled, as they use their terminology. I want you to be impressed by the number 17 plus 4 north of Gush Katif, so altogether 21 of them. Thousands of families, households, greenhouses, businesses, fields, cemeteries that needed to be uprooted and brought back into Green Line Israel. That created a terrible objection against the government, with demonstrations, with arrests, with heartbreaking prayers. People came from all over the country. There were marches, there were parades, there were people on the roofs praying, there were girls praying separately, boys praying separately, and even the soldiers who needed to evacuate them were heartbroken over it, yet it was done. And let me add, from the angle of who I am, with not one single person being wounded, not one drop of blood being shed, yet left behind a large segment of the Israeli population totally heartbroken. Poetry was created around this. And I want you to spend another minute with these pictures, especially the last one that says, "We shall remember, we shall return." One of the rules, one of the laws that the new government wants to legislate is the annulment of the disengagement and to allow people to go back even to Gush Katif. This is one of the things in their plans. I'm just saying, putting it on the table in front of us. Our purpose today is not to criticize the political action for or against. We have one single purpose today. I want you to listen to the pain. I want you to be aware of how heartbreaking this experience had been for the people involved and how alive these sentiments still are in Israel. We are starting with the poetry of a poet I love very dearly, Eliaz Cohen. Eliaz Cohen is a settler from Gush Etzion, south of Jerusalem. He is a poet. He is the head of a publishing house called Mashiv HaRuach, and they created a special issue of the paper around the disengagement in 2006. And I want you to notice the name, the title of that particular number. So you can see on the left-hand side, you'll get the translation in a minute. גיליון מיוחד על דעת הזמן והמקום. I want you just to hear the words על דעת הזמן והמקום, which immediately calls to your attention. It's a clear reference to the words we utter before we say Kol Nidri, right? So here they are, those words, just in case anyone of you in the 6 months since have forgotten. So with the consent of the Almighty and the contents of this congregation, in the convocation, etc., etc. So even the title of the special number dedicated to the disengagement by the publishing house Mashiv HaRuach is calling to the reader, calling to the audience. This is as severe as Kol Nidri. This is a moment of judgment in our lives, as heartbreaking as standing in prayer on the night of Kol Nidri. Here's an image of Eliaz. Well, he aged since a little bit, and his hair is not that dark, but it's still as rich as that. I want to put his poem, An Invitation to Cry, into context. So this particular one, Eliaz Cohen, is in conversation with a text that was published in 1974 by a secular poet called Arnon Lapid, and I'm translating just a bit. Following the Yom Kippur War and its tragic consequences to the Israeli society, Arnon Lapid, a secular kibbutznik, is writing a longer text. We are reading just a little. I want to send you an invitation to weep. The day and the hours are not important, but the evening plan, I promise, will be rich. Weeping. We will weep for hours. I will weep over my dead. Avraimale, Ilan, Amiti, Dudu, Ozer, Yair, and my son, and you will weep over yours, and together we will weep for the dreams we have awakened from you, etc. So this is a text well known in Israel. that was created after the over 3,000 losses at the Yom Kippur War that have shaken Israeli society to the bone. Elias, who was a baby, a toddler then, couldn't remember it, but the text is known, is writing his own text. And he is writing it before the disengagement, while the deliberation about the disengagement are going on. And he is sitting in Gush Etzion, that famous block of settlement south of Jerusalem, between Jerusalem and Bethlehem, where he lives to this day. And he is scared stiff of the day that the soldiers will be coming to his settlement, to his kibbutz. And he calls it an invitation to cry. So just like the special number is evoking Kol Nidre, the special poem is evoking a text not as sacred as Kol Nidre, but pretty well known and appreciated in Israel about the terrible memories of the Yom Kippur War. And he is trying to imagine. I'm doing a little bit of the Ivrit because I want you to hear the whole poem in English. The poet, a settler awaiting expulsion, is talking to the soldier, as Jewish as him, who will come to take him away, to expel him from his home. אליך החייל הטוב הנאמן, שביום מן הימים הוא יום פקודה תקרב למעוננו. ארוץ אליך בזרועות פתוחות, ארוץ אחבקך והובילך, לפני הפתח אוחז צווארונך, אקרא בך קריאה עד מקום הלב. And let's go to the English. To you, the good loyal soldier, who on the day of the order will approach our dwelling. I will run to you with open arms. I will run, I will embrace you and lead you in front of the entrance. I will take hold of your collar. I will tear it to the place where your heart is. Enter, sit with us, the mourners. Taste the round pretzels, like the children who even now are tumbling on the rug. Like fate, again, houses in Etzion are turning poked and hollow. Silently, we all walk at the end through the rooms of the house. Only I and you, my wife, and the walls remember the quarrels and the loving. Lines that were written and erased as though burned into the book of life. In your eyes, my good soldier, I will see a tear. Our friends stifled their crying, wrote the poet in 1948. Perhaps now it is permitted to cry, and if there were more time, we would lie down in green pastures and play again the hide-and-seek game of the song and of songs. You as my love, I as the beloved, and you, soldier, in the role of the watchman. And I would take you running before to the cemetery. Here, in an hour of great favor, I heard Allah of the Muezzin, as though rising together with the praying of Yehudaim. Here one can prophesy, here, if only we had more time. In a whisper you ask, have you packed? As though there were in this world a bundle which can contain yearning. You hold back a stream of tears. We go out for a breath of air on the porch. Here I prepared the little corner to write the unfinished novel. Now from the fig tree in the yard the last leaf falls. Everything is filled with symbols, you say. You fall on my neck, weeping bitterly. My good loyal soldier, now at last it is permitted to cry. Very quickly, let me just point out to you some of the things that one may want to pay attention to. Yom Pkuda, the day of order, and you can see the quote, the biblical quote. So, and what will ye do on the day of visitation, and of the runes which will come from afar, etc., etc. So here we can see Isaiah being quoted. I want you to be aware of as many quotes as possible. Here's another one. We would lie down in the green pastures again and again, and you can see Psalms, of course, bin Otdeshe Yarbitzeni, he makes me lie down in the pastures, and you can see, of course, the Song of Songs. If you want another layer of references, we go back to the poem and look at more modern references. So the invitation to cry is to the poem from 1974 that I showed you. Fate again houses in Etzion are turning poke. This is a reference to the Guri poem about the Gush Etzion falling in 1948. In your eyes, good soldier, I will see a tear. Our friends stifle and they're crying, wrote the poet in 1948. That's a reference to Alterman's poem after World War II, when a child who survives the hiding is asking his mother, is it okay to cry now? So here is a poem created by a person whom I know personally. I cannot say well, but close enough to tell you that if the order came, he would not refuse it, but he will be heartbroken. Not only that, but he knows that the soldier will not refuse it, yet the soldier is not an enemy to him, the soldier is a brother. So this is the spirit I needed for you to understand in which the disengagement happened. There was a sense, there was a feeling of a national disaster expressed in this poem and the two others that I have sent you. I will want to introduce to you some more elements of this, but not before I will let you ask and react. Bevakasha.
The disengagement was in 2005. It's
Yeah,
2023. What happened to all that pain?
I'll tell you exactly, Wes. Every single time, and with every single demonstration that right wing and national religious are opposing, they say, where were you during the disengagement? Why did you not stand with us where we were claiming our rights? Where was the Supreme Court defending us and our right to the land? The wound is open. The lack of understanding of left wing is, although it wasn't left wing, it was Arik Sharon. Bibi voted for the disengagement from the Likud. But the feeling that mainstream Israel at the time did not understand the pain, was not with them in the demonstrations, could not feel how heartbroken they were, is now out in the open. I don't want to use very strong vocabulary, but there is sometimes a sense of almost vengeance, almost spite. You were not with us, we are not alongside you now.
Wow.
That thing, yeah, it's there. You can
So,
hear it.
what I'm hearing, Rachel, is zero healing.
Yet, yeah. It wasn't handled properly then, and it's festering and coming out now.
And one last
And
question: the families from Gush Katif that were expelled, where did they go, and what became of them?
they got compensation money, they got new places of settlement. Some accepted and got settled pretty fast, some took longer. I know from Yossi the involvement of social workers who were involved. There are new villages, new places, sometimes carrying the same names, but the pain is there. By the way, there is a museum of remembrance of Gush Katif in Jerusalem. Did you ever think of maybe visiting at least in order to understand the pain?
Yeah. Thank you,
You
Rachel.
know, not necessarily agreeing. And for that, I want to share with you something because our time, as I can see, is very limited, but still, I want to do that. So, as you can see, very quickly, I gave you a timeline, and I just want you to look at it so you know what we are talking about and our very special poet. So you can see when Eliaz was born in 72, he couldn't remember the Yom Kippur, and the family moved to Elkanah, a settlement, and now he and his wife live in Gush Etzion. And now look at the richness of the references. He goes to Alterman in reference. He goes to Guri. He goes to the whole history of the falling of the Gush in 48 and the coming back in 67 and the Yom Kippur War and the disengagement in 2005. So this is a poem that really holds a combination of narratives of losing a precious place, having to give it up for the good of the state. That happens time and again. And we are not studying all the poems that are relevant and all the poets, and there are two more poems that I've prepared for you, and they are in the text, but this is what I want to share with you, because for me this is important. There was a very strong sense of belief that if they demonstrated hard enough, if they prayed hard enough, something will avert the decision. And one of the scenes that can best show you this is what we call the prayer of the young girls, the women. In one of the synagogues of Gush Katif, young women like the one you can see in the picture were gathered for prayer. At the prayer they continued singing and praying is Tfilah Le'ani. So let me read the Hebrew. Tfilah Le'ani ki ye'etaf ולפני אדוני ישפוך שיחו, אדוני שמעה תפילתי ושבתי אליך תבוא. אל תסתר פניך ממני ביום צר לי, from Psalms. The prayer of the afflicted when he faintest and pourest out his complaint before the Lord. O Lord, hear my prayer and let my cry come unto thee. Hide not thy face from me in the day of my distress. King David. And we shall listen for at least 1 minute to the girls praying, so you get a sense of the feeling those days.
הן עוברות ברצף מתפילה לתפילה. והנוסח נשמע לי אשכנזי קלאסי מהדור הישן, עם קצת חידושים.
Wow.
Okay, let me check out of this.
Wow.
So that we can, yeah, I know, but I want to say something that will be an answer to your question before, Wes. Those girls in 2005 are mothers today.
Yes.
Yeah? Okay. This is almost 20 years ago. They are raising the teenagers of today, the soldiers of tomorrow, and the pain is there, and it has not healed.
Yeah, Rachel, could you just give us a sense, not to generalize, but Could you give us a sense what's likely to be the politics of those young mothers now? Are those Ben Gvir supporters?
Not necessarily Ben-Gvir, but not the rudeness, not the fascism on Ben-Gvir, but total commitment to the land, total commitment for Greater Israel, as they call it, to the settlement movement, to against the Supreme Court, who protects the rights of Palestinians, etc. Very complicated.
So if those two young women who were leading prayer so passionately, if we could speak to the 30-something-year-old version of them, and I asked them, what are your thoughts about the importance of Israel remaining a democratic state? What would they likely say?
If they are alongside, they will explain their kind of democracy. First of all, majority rules, and second, that we as Jews have a preference, that we need to make sure that it's democratic for all Jews, and there will be different levels of how to treat Palestinians. From the extreme Smotrich that they can remain what is no voting rights, all the way to this is a Jewish state and Judaism takes preference and settling all over the place. And it's not only settlement in the settlements, it's settlements in Jaffa as well, buying up Arab property, coming into Arab neighborhoods. I see them here in Jaffa. While they are also in the religious Zionism, people like Elias Cohen, who is heading together with the Palestinian Gudur Roots, an organization called Peace for All and Land for All. So you will find different shades. I cannot vouch for every single one of them.
Right. But as a general matter, the descendants of Gush Katif support altering the balance of power so that the Supreme Court has less power to protect the rights of minorities.
Yeah. Yes. That I can say clearly.
Thank you, Rachel. You have one more poem for us?
Yes, actually a song, but yes, I do. So what I wanted to conclude with is not from this topic. Hang on, give me a minute there, as I need to do that again. All right, where am I going? Here. I'm going here, and I don't see what I want to see. Something went my PowerPoint had. Give me a minute. All right, so I'll tell it to you, and then I'll put the song on. What I wanted to do is to bring us back to last week when we discussed Wadi Salib. And one of the people, the children, at the time of the riots in Wadi Salib, wrote a poem called One Human Tissue. And it is all about our need. He was really traumatized when he saw the terrible things that happened at the time in Wadi Salib. And the poem that he had created, something went bad with the sharing of the screen, so I cannot show you the text, but you guys have it.
Yes.
Maybe you could read just the English words, and then we will listen to the Hebrew singing.
Sure. When I die, something of me will die within you. When you die, something of you within me will die along with you. Because all of us, yes, all of us are just one living human tissue. And if one of us fades away, something of us dies alongside him, and something stays within him. If we only knew how to calm the hatred, if only we knew how. If we only knew how to silence our rage, to say we are sorry in spite of our pain. If we only knew how to begin anew, because all of us, ...
That comes from what we have studied last week, that comes to conclude the 4 weeks that we have spent together talking about descent, talking about crisis. Let us listen to one of the hopeful, almost prayer-like songs of the time that will lead us to conclusion today. Just a minute.
כשאמות משהו ממני, משהו ממני ימות בך, ימות בך. כשתמות משהו ממך בי, משהו ממך בי ימות איתך, ימות איתך. כי כולנו, כן כולנו, כולנו רקמה אנושית אחת חיה. ואם אחד מאיתנו הולך מעימנו, משהו מת בנו, משהו נשאר איתו. אם נדע איך להרגיע, איך להרגיע את העיר, אם רק נדע, אם נדע, אם נדע להשקיט את זעמנו, על אף עלבוננו לומר סליחה, אם נדע להתחיל מההתחלה. כי כולנו, כן כולנו, כולנו רקמה אנושית אחת חיה. ואם אחד מאיתנו הולך מעימנו, משהו מת בנו, משהו נשאר איתו.
I think this would be a great moment for me to stop and repeat those words. If we understand that we indeed are somehow connected, even to those we do not agree with, that may be the beginning of the way to heal. And this is my wish and hope for the future of Israel between now and Yom Ha'atzmaut, between now and forever. Thank you for being generous to offer
Rachel,
this.
first of all, I want to close with an observation and one last question. The observation is just thank you for teaching us Israel and for teaching us the roots of this situation today in such a human way, where you bring the humanity, the pain, the pathos, the honest emotion of the actors then and now to us in a way that otherwise we could never get. We're so grateful to you for that. And also you have this really unique way of taking the politics. I mean, the hitnakut, the withdrawal from Gaza was so deeply political, and yet you're able to present it as a human challenge, as an emotional challenge. What's the pain of the situation? And to present those young girls praying in ways that any human with a heart can access, even if your politics are very different. So and you did that for every one of the issues. So thank you for that. Here's my last question, and then we'll let you go. That
Good.
song that you sang, that you brought us at the end, um, because all of us, yes, all of us are just one living human tissue. Are you as hopeful as that song?
I have to be. Otherwise, what am I doing here?
Mm. Thank.
What am I doing here? I have children here. I have grandchildren. Let me answer you from a different perspective. These days, practically every other week, I get emails from people such as the ones sitting in shul now, such as the ones on the streaming, asking me, Rachel, is this a good time to come to Israel? We are concerned, we don't know, etc. And I say, I'm the last person on earth to ask. I'm here. I'm here for the duration. And I will do, and my kids will do, and my grandchildren are involved, not to let go of that dream. We are in a process, we are in a very bad crisis, and we are working hard to maintain that which Israel was created for. And it was not created for any single group of the groups we were facing together. It was created for a combination. And we will need to figure out a way to make this work somehow. There'll be give and take. There may be, hopefully, some creative solutions. I don't know. But I'm not ready to let go yet.
Mm. Rachel, may Hashem prosper all of your worthy endeavors and worthy aspirations. We are so admiring of you and gratitude to you. Lots of love from Newton. Thank you so much.
תודה רבה רבה, and Shabbat Shalom to you.
Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.